Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly show. We call it Three Broke Guys Handicapping. It's where we review one of the top racing cars from around the United States. We will select a four race sequence from that track and attempt. No, wait, hang on. Thank you for joining us. But during week number 40 of the racing season, instead of coming to a consensus on a pick four ticket, me and the handicappers will be competing head to head in a little contest we like to call Pick Four Wars. Covering the pick four at Belmont, New York, is our own Ray Torado. He's coming to you from his home in Staten Island, New York. Ray, how are you doing, and what's the weather like in Belmont, New York tomorrow?
We're doing good here, Rich. We're gonna have probably around 60 degrees. It's gonna be clear, so the track should be fast. The turf should be good. Fast, good or fast. It depends. We didn't have much sunshine today, but it's gonna be a nice day. 60 degrees, pleasant for this time of year.
Awesome, awesome. And covering the pick four on Fall Star weekends at Keeneland is our second handicapper, and he's coming at you from his home in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah, just kidding, Joe. Joe English is coming at you from his house in Temecula, California, in your dreams, Joe. And why don't you tell us about the weather down there in Lexington, Kentucky for your pick four tomorrow, though?
It's funny, Rich. Once you said that to Ray, I was like, "Oh, I better get my phone. I better look up the weather."
I was even ready.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay, what's
No,
going on? What
I
weather?"
just looked now. 68. I'm sorry, 68 cloudy. So
No, we're actually far apart.
surprise,
Yeah, exactly.
like a pop quiz.
Well, it's funny. Ironically, I guess the weather in Lexington. I'm sorry. This says Sunday. My apologies. Now it says today. Low chance of precipitation. About four. Actually, it says about 40%. I guess the high tomorrow is supposed to be in the mid 80s in Lexington. And I guess there's some chance for some afternoon thunderstorms. I did not get a chance to watch the races today. Unfortunately, I have to work. So I don't know if either one of our other handicappers had a chance to watch and see what the weather was like at Keeneland. I did hear that there were a lot of upsets. That's the only thing I really know about what happened at Keeneland today, Rich.
All right. Nice. All right. And last of all, obviously, my name is Rich Sharp. And this week I'm back home, sweet home, California, covering the pick four from Santa Anita in Arcadia, California, where tomorrow, I believe, it is a beautiful, a beautiful racing day. In fact, a high of 78 degrees. They say it's mostly sunny, and most importantly, even though we've got a lot of clouds this week, there's a 0% chance of rain tomorrow there at Santa Anita. So last week, well, again, we kind of have been kind of hit and miss with you. Excuse me, folks. We've been hit and miss with you the last few weeks, something like that. So we were on the air a couple of weeks ago where we tried to hit the Woodbine pick four that included the Woodbine mile. We did not hit that one. So again, trying to get off to a rolling finish here to 2018. And I am going to turn it over to Ray Torado, and he's going to take you into the opening leg of his pick four, which is at Belmont Park in Elmont, New York. Then we'll switch over to Joe. Joe will give you the opening leg of his at Keeneland down there in Lexington, New York. And then I'll bring up the rear here from Santa Anita here in California.
All right, thanks, Rich. Belmont, we have the opening leg of pick four. Will be race number 8. We have the Beldane Stakes. It's a grade 1 for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a grade 1, and the purse is $400,000, mile and an eighth. It's a pretty interesting race. There are a few horses I was looking at here. But my top pick, I went with number 6, Wildcat. This horse turns back to a mile, and turns back to one turn after 2 decent tries at Saratoga. She won 8 straight in Chile, and Chad Brown found this horse and shipped over here and had 2 races in Saratoga. They worked out not too bad. The second and the third, she got beat by Abel Tasman and Elate, who's 2 really good horses. She lost to Farrell by a neck in the Shuvi. So those races were 2 turns. I'm thinking one turn might be her game. She won a lot of races in Chile going short, probably 1 turn, 1 mile and stuff like that. So Giant V Ortiz replaces Giant V, and Chad Brown just should have this horse cranked up. I think she gonna probably set off the pace. Or maybe I'll teach the manager to go to the lead. There's not much there's speed here, but it's manageable speed. And I think the horse will do very well, 5-2. I do like number two, Teresa Z. She's a little long shot here. Joe Bravo rides for Anthony Malgata. This horse, she seemed willingly, according to PPs in Delaware. This is one of Joe's angles here, Delaware, and she won a minor stake in Delaware, and she finished third in the Delaware handicap, so she's cutting back in distance. And Joe Bravo gets the bounce. He's 30% with the roots, 10-1. That's a nice price for me. I do like also number five, Verve's Tail. This horse, this race has, like I said, a decent amount of speed. And if the pace doesn't really get hot, if they start going at each other, this horse could close. This horse been plodding along third, around there. Doesn't win that often, 3 for 21, but she is 16 for 21 in the money. So she's always hitting the board, getting a check, and she's actually 6 for 8 in the money at 9 furlongs with 2 wins, and 4 for 7 in the money at Belmont. But she is winless. But Marion Franco, who always creeps up in those standings, trying to battle the Ortizes and Velasquez and the Castellanos, he usually creeps up in the standings, and he's a good rider, and he might be able to bring his horse home off a little layoff. So Verve's Tail 9-2. So I'll go 3D here, guys. I go 6-2-5 in my opening leg in the Chevy. Joe?
Okay, Ray, thanks. My first leg, the pick four at Keeneland, is a guaranteed $350,000 pool, and it starts at 4:05 Pacific, 4:05 Eastern Time, 1:05 Pacific for you West Coast handicappers out there. It's the Thoroughbred Club of America Stakes. It's a grade 2 for $250,000. For fillies and mares 3 and up, going 6 furlongs around 1 turn at Keeneland. It's a field of 10, at least as of right now. The entries say it was a field of 10. Unfortunately, I've not had a chance to check social media to find out of any defections. I'm not sure if anybody's cross-entered anywhere, but it's funny. This sequence was so challenging, and I unfortunately had to narrow down in some spots. The horse I ended up on top is I believe the morning line favorite 3-1 is Miss Sunset. Unfortunately, I have to eat the chalk here. But based on the way the race was drawn, the two horses inside of Miss Sunset, Rich Mommy and Torrent, generally show a lot less speed. So the one thing I know about Miss Sunset is that she's going to probably break on top. She will outbreak the two horses on her inside, and she's going to get a nice trip inside. The question will be is if they decide to send her to the lead, and my guess is because of that they probably will. And obviously she hasn't really had any problems being on the lead. And if it's funny, if you look at her PPs and you see, it's funny because Rich was obviously reading my mind. If you look at Mike Smith as the rider of this horse, circle those Mike Smith performances for me, Rich. The ones that are in the PPs. There are 5 of them, and if you look at them, they're all wins. So obviously Mike Smith has some kind of bond and some kind of connection with this horse. Not that he doesn't have it with a lot of other horses, because obviously he's one of the best riders we've seen in a while. But in this case, he's going. He could stay at Santa Anita. He could have gone to Belmont, but he decided to go to Keeneland. My guess is this is probably a major reason why. 10 of 18 on top, 1 for 2 with a second as the other finish at Keeneland, 4 of 5 at the distance. And again, I think she's going to get a ground saving trip. She's probably going to be on the lead. And while there is a little other speed in here, I don't think there's this kind of speed. I think Miss Sunset probably gets the lead, gets clear, hopefully breaks. As long as she breaks well, she's going to be on top as far as she can take them. But the one thing I do caution about betting races like this is that no matter what, the major goal is not today. In most cases, the major goal is 4 weeks from now at Breeders' Cup, November 2nd and 3rd. So, again, I would take Miss Sunset as my top choice. Again, for all the reasons I mentioned. The other horse I'm going to use is the 9. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Chalon, but whatever it is. I know she's got outside speed. Should be the one who I think has the most likely route to challenge Miss Sunset on the lead here. Again, she's 5 wins in 11 lifetime starts, 9 of 11 in the money, 4 wins on a fast track, and she comes out of some good races. Obviously, she's in really good form. The one thing about I see that Paco Lopez is not riding, and I'm not sure exactly where Paco is. And it's one of the best things about tomorrow is that there's an interesting dynamic in that there are horses at Keeneland who are generally ridden by Irad and Jose Ortiz, but Irad and Jose Ortiz are in New York. I believe riding the New York horses for the local connections, and guys like Johnny V, Javier Castellano, they're here at Keeneland, so they're going to pick up the horses that other guys aren't riding. And again, I'm not exactly sure where Paco is. Oh, Rich, you know where Paco is? Where is Paco at Santa Anita?
He's at Santa Anita.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm glad you pointed that out to me. But again, this horse runs well fresh, and I'm wondering if there's purpose that she's avoiding the heavyweights for some reason. Obviously, earlier, late last year, she ran into Finley's Lucky Charm. She finished second to Miss Sunset in a race at Keeneland, the Raven Run last year. So, and just this year, she's kind of been staying away from the heavyweights, maybe because they want her fresh to be able to try and tackle these type on Breeders' Cup weekend and on this weekend as well. Again, Arnaud De La Cour and Javier Castellano don't really team up very often. And again, one of the dynamics about this weekend, like I said, is that horses are riding for trainers that they've never ridden for before or rarely ride for. So that dynamic makes things a little bit more challenging, a little bit different. But again, I always like outside speed. I think she'll be able to sit off of Miss Sunset. And if she's good enough, she'll be able to go by when she wants. And if Miss Sunset's, as good as everybody thinks she is, and Mike Smith does have the magic touch, she can still run second, and there's really nothing embarrassing about that. So again, because the card was so challenging and so daunting, I had to narrow in some spots. There are other horses I would use, especially there are a couple. One that I'll mention is Awestruck for Rusty Arnold. I would use her if I had enough room to get her on my Pick4 ticket. And if there were scratches, obviously things might change. But again, I'm going to go with the 2 morning line favorites. Miss Sunset's 3-1, and I believe Chalone is 4-1 in the TCA tomorrow in the Pick4 opener at Keeneland. Rich, what is brewing at Santa Anita?
And just for a moment, I'm going to reflect on the irony of this show. Of course, I've always been the West Coast handicapper over here and always had a preference for the West Coast tracks. And yet, just based on the opening races here and when I looked at the forms for the 3 tracks that we got today, you got to know that I was just licking my chops at the 2 options that you guys got to play. In comparison to my 8th race, they're going 6.5 furlongs. This is an optional claimer, 40,000 for non-winners of 1. This is for 3-year-olds and upward, which have never won $10,000 other than maiden claiming, or starter, which have never won 2 races, or optional claiming price of $40,000. I got the slim pickings today, guys. So I did look at this race, and being a 6.5 furlongs on the dirt, I kind of suspected that it was a speed-bearing race, and I saw right away that there's a 75% chance that the winner is going to come from the early spot. But this race is actually loaded with speed. I mean, there's actually 14, I think, entries that are on the opening line here, and almost everybody looks like they can move at least early. I did go 3 deep in this race, and rather than just settling for the chalk on the open one, I did go for it's either the second choice on the morning line or possibly it's going to be the 3rd choice on the morning line. It's Solid Wager. Peter Miller, and this is why I knew where Paco was, is going for Peter Miller, and here comes Paco Lopez into town to ride for him. And I've seen Paco come in, and when he comes in, he actually does ride for Peter Miller, and he does exceptionally well here in Southern California. Solid Wager is a closer. He's not necessarily what I always think of as a reliable winner. He doesn't win a lot, as you see right there. Look at the page. We get the last 10 for him. He's 9 for 45 in his lifetime. And here, you get 10 choice, 10 slots for him, and he's just got the one win in there. But I'm going to take the chance that maybe today is that day where the speed's going to wear him out. You've got the celebrity rider in from out of town for a good reason, and so I'm going to put my check mark here. My top check mark is going on solid wager. I guess I did kind of check it out. My second choice here from Ronus Racing, it's John Sadler and Tyler Bays. The horse hasn't done very much wrong here in the last 4 tries. And again, I really do like Tyler Bays being aboard. Had Edwin Maldonado and Joel Rosario in those previous attempts and comes off a win. And again, Sadler's got a good barn going. The third choice, I didn't even bring out the bobblehead dolls for tonight and things like that, but I'm not going to go against Baffert here. There's 14 horses that are in this one. Bob's got one. It's coming off a layoff. It's over a year layoff, as if that matters something for Bob Baffert. Micro Rhythms, and he's got Drayden Van Dyke, who is now his #1 rider, I guess you would say, or at least his most productive rider, possibly. Mike Smith still being his #1 rider, I guess. But 46% they've been hitting together. It's kind of like elevated Drayden Van Dyke to that very next level there at the Jockey Colony here in Southern California. And so I went with the 2 as my top choice. I've also got the 10 and the 4. So 2, 4, 10. And let me come on back to you guys here for a moment. And I will summarize what we saw there in the first round of the Pick4 War. Hey, Rick. All right. Opening round there. And as you heard from me, I just finished up there. I went with 3, and I'm using the 2. The 2 was my top choice. That was solid wager. And then I backed it up as well with the 4 and the 10. Joe, he was there just before me. And Joe came in with the 3 and the 9. And that was from Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington, Kentucky. And leading off for us in that first round there, that was Ray Torado from Belmont Park in Elmont, New York. And Ray also went 3 deep, and Ray went 6, 2, 5. All right, round number 2, Pick4 Rose. Mr. English, you are up first. Take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Rich. I just wanted to mention in passing that the TCA is a win. Actually, all the races at Keeneland that I'm covering are all win your in races.
Ooh, nice.
TCA is a win you're in for the Filly Mare Sprint. My next race is the 1 mile First Lady. It's a grade 1 for 400,000 for, again, fillies and mares 3 and up on the grass. This is a win you're in for the Filly and Mare Turf.
Hey, Joe, hold on for a second. Get closer to your microphone, or get your microphone back in a better spot. You're sounding like you're a little bit further in the cave than normal.
Is this better?
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. So I guess I'll repeat what I just said.
Yeah.
The 8th race is 1 mile on the turf at Keeneland for the fillies and mares 3 and up. The First Lady Stakes is a grade 1 for 400,000, and it's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, which I believe is run on. I'm not sure if it's run on Friday or Saturday, but that I guess will be that. I'm not sure if that's been determined yet. Anyway, this is also I believe, a field of 10, if I'm looking correctly. Let me just confirm that. Yes, a field of 10. And with any filly and mare turf race on the face of this earth, or maybe, I don't know, on Mars or on the moon somewhere, maybe they're running filly and mare turf races. My guess is Chad Brown's got entries wherever they are. He's got about 60 or 70 mares that run consistently, including a few that are skipping this spot. And like one specific, Sister Charlie, who's training up to the Breeders' Cup. Anyway, I guess I did go with one of the top. Like I said, Chad Brown has 3 in here, and unfortunately, Rich, I did split my Browns. I did not use all of them, and I'll get to that in a second. My top choice, I guess, is the 2, a Raving Beauty. I just the race in the Diana, she finished 3/4 of a length back, but I mean, she had a really brutal trip. So they came back at Saratoga to run at the Boston Spa, and for whatever reason, at 4 to 5, she just didn't fire. Not exactly sure why, but one of the themes that we've been covering on the show is forgiveness, and I'm going to decide. I'm going to say, well, maybe it was just a situation where she didn't necessarily like Saratoga. Again, maybe it was just a bad day. Maybe Kadura was just better than her that day, and that it is what it is. And it's funny. The one constant I guess you've seen with the first three races was that she always drew an outside post, and in that race she drew an inside post, which of course leads me to believe that maybe I shouldn't have Raving Beauty as my top choice, given that she's drawn kind of towards the inside again. But the one thing, again, we talked about Irad Ortiz and Jose Ortiz being in New York, and obviously Chad Brown runs horses at Keeneland as well as in New York and in Santa Anita. Johnny V gets aboard for Chad Brown, and it's funny because as I've watched Johnny V, it seems he's gotten so much better on the grass than he is. I mean, not that he's bad on the dirt. It's just that of late he's done a lot of his best riding on the grass. So I'm going to say that maybe a Raving Beauty just had a bad day that last time. She's a 2-time Grade 1 winner. I'm going to give her a chance to recoup that money. If you look at Johnny V's stats, even on the grass, 20%. He's 21% overall and 20% on the grass, and that's really tough to do considering grass races are usually more contentious, fuller fields. So generally the percentage would go down a little bit, but he's basically in the same ballpark, and he's even got a positive ROI on the grass. So if you just bet every horse he rode blindly without even looking at PPs, he's obviously moved them up. So I'm going to take a shot with the Raving Beauty to turn the tables on her stablemate, who is one of her stablemates obviously is my second choice, and that's the 3 Kadura. She's really only run one bad race in her life, and that was the EP Taylor over soft ground at Woodbine. Also at 1.25 miles, a lot longer than usually she runs, even though she had run second in the New York a while back in June of 2017. So I'm going to give her again. I'll give her a pass for that one in Woodbine for soft turf. Again, in the weather forecast, I mentioned that there was a possibility of some rain, and maybe this horse wants it firm. Obviously, she was able to run second to 55 over yielding course 2 back off the layoff at Belmont. But Chad usually works them. I mean, usually the first race for Chad is great. The second race is kind of not so good, but the third race is where he really cranks them up. Javier Castellano gets aboard for Chad. Obviously, he's ridden her before. He rode her in the second place finish in the New York way back to Hawksmoor in June of 2017. So, she's obviously won over the surface at Keeneland. She finished third in the Jenny Wiley behind Dickinson and Lady Eli. So she's been, facing some tough company. You can't really underestimate Chad Brown. So you got to use her as well. She's going to be on the lead. She's going to be able to avoid traffic problems again, given that she breaks. So she's obviously a use. And the other horse I'm going to use is not the third Chad Brown horse. Sorry, Chad, I'm disappointing you. I'm going to use the Godolphin Homebred Crown Walk. The angle for me is, it's funny because when horses start in Europe and they don't start on the grass right away, there's always some contention as to, well, why would they do that? Do they think the horse would be better on synthetic? Maybe the horse just hasn't run as well in the mornings, or worked or jogged or exercised as well in the mornings on the grass. And the horse did okay, on the all-weather track. But then when they switched her to the turf in France, she's been phenomenal. I mean, she finished second in a Grade 1 last time out. She won a Grade 3, second in a Grade 2. She's obviously got some ability. And there's that man again, that Mike Smith guy, who's pretty good. I don't know if he's better. I think he's better on dirt, to be honest with you. But he's not bad on turf. Obviously, he's not, he is who he is. But this is a horse who gets first-time Lasix. And I've always been a proponent of French turf racing is better than English turf racing. So if that's what you believe, and that's basically what I believe, I think this horse is obviously better than the horses that she's been, obviously finishing second in races in France, graded races in France. She's got to be a use here. I can't see her getting away at 4-1 with Mike Smith, first time Lasix, first time in the country, and 6 of 7 in the exacta. So I have to use her. And if there's anybody who's going to upset Chad Brown, I believe it's Crown Walk. I'm not even very familiar with the trainer, but that Smith guy is okay, so I'll use him too. So I went in this spot. I went 2, 3, 4 in the First Lady at Keeneland, and I'm not sure. Am I handing it off to you, Rich? Are you taking the second leg of the are you taking the baton from me?
I will take the second leg from you before I clarify the controversy here that you've launched on this poor show. For God's sakes, we were talking Yankees and Red Sox before the show started like that. Now you're bringing up English racing versus French racing. What are you going to do to our show?
Wait a minute, how about Australian too? I don't count those guys. I got winks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
You got winks.
Well, okay.
But
I mean,
you won every day.
you know what? It's funny. I don't know what to do with Australia. I'm just talking about generally European racing.
I got you. No, I'm with you. And I you know, without piling on and things like that, I have a tendency to agree. All right, so here we go. I'm in race number 9. This is, believe it or not, and again, there's tears in my eyes here, and I'm watching my 2 friends here, my colleagues, just loading up on stakes races with jockeys and trainers and horses that I know all about that we've been covering all year long, and here I am, just kind of non-winners have won. But here we go. I do have a graded stakes race for you. It's 1 mile on the turf. It's the City of Hope Mile. Again, as you heard there, it's a grade 2. Purse is $200,000 for 3-year-olds and upward. And I am on, actually, I am not on the favorite again. And how about this? I'm on number 2, White Flag. This is Christophe Clement, Kent de Sormo. And the horse is 5-1 on the opening line. You've been hearing me ever since we started this show, talk about my preference for East Coast turf horses out here in California, and this is the one. White Flag, coming out of a race there at Kentucky Downs, where he finished second by a head. Those races at Kentucky Downs are amazingly difficult, and they are very highly rated. Before that, the horse had been racing over there at Belmont, at Aqueduct. I really don't think he had to say any more than that, and yet, unfortunately, here in California, we do have someone who actually is a little bit of a quality guy, and that's Sharp Samurai, the Mark Glatt, Gary Stevens horse that's back here. He finished 3rd in that last race at Del Mar. He got stuck behind Fly to Mars, and then they promoted him up to 2nd. Fly to Mars has been a little bit of a difficult horse for me and Joe. I remember a funny story from us from Del Mar this past summer. So I'm going to leave Fly to Mars actually off of my ticket here, though, and I'm just going to play the 8. But really, I'm strongly leaning towards even just singling up here on White Flag. He seems to me to be the strongest of the 2 here. I'm just using 2 selections in this race for my pick 4 for tonight's show. I am using the 2 again. Think about it. You might see me tomorrow. I actually might single on this horse, but I've got the 2, and I'm also using the 8. And I am going to hand it off to Mr. Torado over at Belmont Park.
All right. Belmont race 9. Actually, I'm sorry. I failed to mention that the pick 4 does start at 4:25 Eastern time. Race 8. So race 9 is like 5 o'clock. We have here the Hill Prince Stakes. It's a grade 2. It's a nice purse, $500,000, and this is solely for 3-year-olds. So we have a field here of 8, and we have a pretty good horse here. He's morning line at 6-5, Raging Bull, and that'll be my top choice. He's a solid choice here for me. He's 4 for 5. He lost to up the ante back on the 4th of July in the Manila Stakes. Up Ganti just was able to loft on the lead, and he had his own way, and Raging Bull just couldn't get him, and he was actually like 2-5 that day. But that happened in turf racing sometimes. The speed horses get out there and slow pace, and he had a little traffic problem, and that's it, done deal. So if he's came back after that, race 2, solid race at Saratoga. The Hall of Fame, the Saranac, he won in both those races. Chad Brown, Chad Brown's here. So there's a few ways, and he's gonna really excel at this 9 furlong distance. Like last time he exploded to win. He's just going away very impressively for me visually. There's 2 ways to play this race. You can probably just single him if you want. He's gonna be a heavy favorite. I'm gonna try and also doing a few other horses here. I do like also number 5, March to the Arch. He's 4-1. He could get him some competition. He was closing the Salnak. He's 11-1. They say he had good energy. And Irad replaces Jose Ortiz here from Cassie, and the same distance. He's a closer. He's 9 furlongs going to fit his style, and he was coming nicely to the wire. The wire just came up, and I think if he improves off that race, he's going to be pretty tough. And he might give him a race here, March to the Arch. I'm a little hesitant. I'm like on the edge about number 8, Ryder Comet. I'm including him, but I'm like kind of fuzzy about him. This horse he's gone to Woodbine, Saratoga, Delaware, Belmont. He had a lot of frequent flying miles there. He's Mark Cassie's other half, uncoupled entries, 4 for 6 this year. But I think I don't know. He seems he's got kind of like a pedigree of like a sprinter, maybe like a miler and stuff. Successful appeal. I know he's got Candy right on the side, but he did win the Del Mar Derby closing during the Red Dyke, riding well. I'm gonna include him. I'm gonna iffy on him, but just I go 3 deep here. Well, he's 3-1, and Mark Cassie has 2 horses here, so I'm gonna go here. Let's see. At the 8, 3, 5, and 8 for me. Who's next? Rich? No, we're done. Leg 2. That was the last one.
Well, if there's any indication of our history, we'll all be done in leg 2.
Yeah. Let me tell you, leg 2 has been nightmares for me also throughout this year. So if you have a chance, just go all and survive the race 2, because man,
All
leg
right.
2 has been our downfall.
Yeah, and I'm back for us. So here, let me just summarize what you heard there.
Okay.
So for leg 2 of the pick 4, Ray just was there, and at Belmont Park, Ray's got he went 3 deep in the second leg as well. So he's got 3, 5, 8 in leg number 2. Just before Ray, you heard me. I just went 2 deep in that race, and again, folks, you heard me. I'm vacillating there. I'm seriously thinking about singling there in leg number 2, and you'll hear why in leg number 3. But I actually have the 2 and the 8 in leg number 2, and Joe went first, and Joe started us off there with the 2, the 3, and the 4. All right. We are going to move along here to leg number 3. And if I'm not mistaken, for one of those rare occasions, I'm actually hitting leadoff. Here we go. And let me share my screen.
All power, no speed.
Yeah.
Usually at third.
Here we go.
Bunt.
Into the leadoff rule I go. I've got race number 10 at Santa Anita. They are going 6 furlongs, and again, exciting for me tonight. This is a claiming race for non-winners of 2 for 3-year-olds and upward, which have never won 2 races. As you see there, in my little blue box, these are my notes to myself like that. So I'm going back and forth between just using 2 or, folks, this one looked like it had the potential to be a train wreck, and just use them all. Now, the unfortunate part is I think there's 14 of them in this race again. So whatever Frank Stranosh is doing, he's doing something right, because the fields are the right size. 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita. That goes just about 81% of the time to horses on the early lead there. Again, as you see, there's quite a few of them that are on the early lead. I think my top pick for the entire race was a horse named Zapana's Game, and he's ridden by Brian Pena. He's a sneaky. He hasn't done anything so far. He's a sneaky good jockey on a need the lead type horse. I'm not a big Daniel Dunham fan, but this race just had the potential, like I said, to be a train wreck. I did pick the horse here who looks like he shows a little bit of early zip, and he's got an outside post position, so he should be able to stay out of some of the traffic trouble. And in a 6.5 furlong race, a 6 furlong race, he should be able to get the lead. And I'm just hoping he kind of cruises on. If it's not him and you need another horse that you're looking for, just going a little bit short, I think I've got the 8 in there as well, which is Kinematico for Mike Pipey with Stuart Elliott. And another one who's got some nice speed figures here. A lot of them were earned on the turf when he was earlier and things like that. So I'm looking for him to replicate something that I saw back on Del Mar and a 7 furlong race on August the 18th. But again, this was a little bit of the reason that you heard me talking about using White Flag as my top option in my leg number 2, was because I may indeed be hitting the 14 button here and go 3 deep in the opening leg and then go 14 deep here if I need to. So, but for the time being, I've got the 11 and the 8 as my top 2 choices that are in this one. If you needed a third one to back it up, I wouldn't throw out the favorite either, which was Pacific Song, which I believe is the 6 who's in this race. So that's the 11 and the 8 on top. I'm going to put the all in parentheses for myself here. And I am going to go ahead and hand it off to Mr. English.
Thanks, Rich. Race 9 at Keeneland is around 2 turns, mile and a 16th, Claiborne Breeders Futurity. Claiborne Breeders Futurity. Say that fast 3 times. Grade 1, 500K for 2-year-old males. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Oh, nice.
That race will be run on Saturday, which is it's a general. Generally, they always run that as part of the late Pick4 on Saturday of Breeders' Cup weekend. And Rich said earlier about his 14-horse field. Yeah, we got 14 14 juveniles, none of which have run more than 3 times.
Wow.
And actually, I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. Sombaye has run 4 times. And he's one of the graded stakes winners in the field. In a race like this, it's funny, the horses that probably have the best combination of record and pedigree seem to have drawn outside. And in a 14-horse field, I'm kind of trying to shy away from those horses, figuring that they're going to get stuck. So, they're going to be stuck closer to the hot dog stands than they are to the inside rail on that first turn in Keeneland, and it's going to be really hard for them to overcome. So I actually went with 3 from what I remember, what I saw in the morning light. I think they're all 12-1 or 15-1 shots to win this race, which is why I could probably use more of the favorites in the earlier legs, figuring that if the Pick4 is still alive and it explodes, this will probably be where it happens. The horse I went with on top is the 6. I believe it's the 6, Everfast. And yeah, this is probably the first time you'll ever hear somebody say, yeah, I'm playing a Jack Gilligan horse on top. Yes, Jack Gilligan is the rider. Robbie Alvarado rode last time out, but what I'm basing this pick on is that he drew the 12 hole last time, and he didn't run all that bad for being in the 12 hole in a grade 3 in his second start, first start around 2 turns. And I think the horse can improve a little bit. And if there's a guy who can get horses ready for big days, it's Dale Romans, and obviously he's the hometown trainer at Keeneland. Not that there aren't others in this race, but he's probably the most famous trainer at Keeneland. This horse is owned by Calumet Farm, and the horse ran well to win its maiden at Ellis Park. Again, they ambitiously stepped up and drew a really horrible post. And at the second call, the horse wasn't that far back, only a length and a half back. And again, finished 5th, beat more than half the field. And again, second time now around 2 turns. Yeah, look at that. I didn't even see that hot jockey stat. There you go.
Yeah, look at that.
Jack Gilligan, 3 for 9 over the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a shot in what really is, to me, it's a grab bag. And it's one of those where, Rich, I would love to use the all button, but again, just like you, it's like I can't really use an all button in a 14-horse field. I don't have that kind of excess cash. The second horse I went with was the horse who drew the inside, and that was Signalman. I think that's the way it's pronounced. For Kenny McPeak, Brian Hernandez gets aboard for the first time. First time Lasix, drew the rail, drew a nice inside spot. Broke his maiden at Saratoga, which obviously is not all that easy to do sometimes. Again, the horse seems to be bred. To me, I think it's a little bit better. I wouldn't say this horse is going to be able to win in a mile and a quarter, being out of a trippy mare. General Quarters out of a trippy mare. But I think about a mile and a 16th is maybe about as far as this horse wants to go. I think this horse will be, is bred better than most people think. At least I think the horse can win around 2 turns. Again, drew the inside, gets first time Lasix, And Brian Hernandez knows a thing or two about winning races with 2-year-olds at Churchill Downs. If I remember right, he was on McCracken for quite a few of his wins last year or 2 years ago. Anyway, so I went with Signalman as my second choice. And the other horse I went with is another horse that ran in the Iroquois last time out, and that was the 8 Tobacco Road. The horse had won 2 starts. Oh, actually, this horse had run 4 times as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that earlier. The horse had obviously liked Ellis Park. And at least to this point, didn't really necessarily show a fondness for Churchill Downs. But again, the horse was a length and a half back after the second call in his first time going long. So I always like to see maybe the horses that didn't necessarily show all that well going first time going 2 turns, but they come back second time around 2 turns and they can improve a little bit. And this horse was only 5-1 in the Iroquois last time out. Again, in the 12-horse field. And obviously, if the comment is correct and the horse was bumped at the start and was 6th path at the quarter pole, there's obviously some traffic issues there. And again, you're getting 12-1. And Steve Asmussen and Corey Lannery is not a bad combination. Again, Corey Lannery was aboard this horse for his 2 wins at Ellis Park. And obviously, there are some sentimental people who would want Corey Lannery to do well, given the situation with his wife passing away earlier this year. So again, that's not necessarily part of the handicapping, but again, it's just a sentimental thing. So again, in what to me amounts to a real grab bag. And to be honest, my horses could run 12th, 13th, and 14th, and it wouldn't surprise me. They could also run 1, 2, and 3. I don't really think there's anything in this race that would jump off the page at me and say, wow, that was a shocking result. But again, due to budgetary constraints, we got to keep it a little bit under some cost control. So again, I went with 3 12 or 15-1 shots, the 6 Everfast, the 1 Signalman, and the 8 Tobacco Road in the grab bag that is the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. Rich, I believe you're up next.
I'm sorry. That was my bad for going. I went out of order. So I went first, and I handed off the joke. Ray, you're gonna have to pick up the tail end for us here.
All right, no problem.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
My bad.
That's all right. Let's see, race 10, we have the Champagne Stakes. It's for 2-year-olds. I think it's a win you win also for the same race that Joe has there. Fierce Cup, Juvenile. These are the horses that are going to be looking to go to the Derby, hopefully. And they're just starting out now. I got a field of 10 here. And I have a lot of horses here who just broke their maiden. There's only actually one greatest stake win in the field. And so these horses are looking to improve. Going 1 turn, a mile, Champagne, 500,000, grade 1. My top choice here is a horse I see he broke his maiden at a mile. Number 9, Aurelius Maximus for Chad Brown. He looked pretty good, although it was a sloppy track. He won by 7, going away lengths. Had the highest brisk figure at the distance, 92. He worked in company with stablemate Complexity after that, and they worked pretty well. 6 out of 141 and 47-4. So those 2 horses look like they're definitely improving. And Chad Brown is having them running well. It's very strange to have a Champagne Stakes here, and there's no top puncher. I guess he's at Keeneland with his horses there.
So, I don't think so. I didn't see any of his horses in that race either.
Well, somebody's won them.
Somewhere. Oh yeah, okay, that's right. You're right.
You're right. So it's
You're right.
But I guess they want to try 2 turns over there. So this is a 1-turn mile. And this race, it's pretty contentious. I like Aurelius Maximus, and I think he's going to definitely improve off his maiden win. I do like number 4, Complexity. He also looked good breaking his maiden. He ran in 109 and 3, solid fractions there, 45, 57, and he's on the lead, and he just went drawn away by 4.5. So he earned a good 96 bridge figure. And Jose Ortiz gets the mount here for Chad Brown. So I think those 2 are going to be pretty much, in the race. Belmont has been favoring a little speed there. You look at the back page, 76% speed winners at this distance for a mile. So those two horses look very good for Chad Brown. I do also like the only greatest stakes win in the field, Call Paul, number 5. He's 4-1. Uh, he's 2 for 2. He's coming for slight layoff. He won. He won his first race at Delaware. Then he went to Saratoga. Won the Saratoga Special Grade 2 at 6 for 5. He beat Tight 10, who I saw in the past performances at a Keeneland. He had finished second to a horse over there. Joe mentioned. So he's coming for layoff, and Jason Service, who's 32% for the year. He's got a good percentage there. He's going to try a mile for the first time, and I mean all these horses basically try a mile. But I think he should extend his. He might. They actually, they're gonna probably lay him off a little bit off the lead and try and get him the distance. And he looks like he has a sprinting, pedigree. But going a mile 1 turn, he should be able to extend his speed going that distance for 1 turn. And he's 4-1. So I rather Cheese picks up the mountain. So those are horses I like there. I like the 9, the 4, and the 5. And I just wanted to mention another horse by Chuck McGahee, Code of Honor. He also broke his maiden in Saratoga, and Shug always has his horses running for the Champagne too. He's a New York trainer, and but he had a slight layoff too. Errol can't sell rides, so I guess he could, he could giant visa somewhere else. So, but I'm gonna go 9-4-5. Rich, back to you.
Let me come on back to you guys, and we will
Champagne.
head into the finale race there.
Um,
I'd like to point out as my colleagues here rack up grade 1s, putting up maiden claiming races. All right, so there in leg number 3 to conclude, and you heard it there, and Ray again, thank you for bringing up the rear there for 2 races in a row for us. Ray is on the 9, the 4, and the 5. I hear Joe, and Joe went for him. He was on the 6, the 1, and the 8. And I actually amended mine. I took out that all button pick there for myself, and so I'm on the 11, the 8, and the 6. And we are ready for our finale. We are heading back into the last race, and since I skipped you twice, or I skipped you once, Ray, you're going to get to lead off here for us going into the finale. Back to you at Belmont Park. We like the finale, Ray.
All right. Well, my stakes campaign is over.
My stakes campaign has come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Look at that.
With 6 furlongs on the turf, we have a allowance race for state breds, 9 winners of 1. So these are horses that are fillies and mares, 3 years old and up, that are bred in New York State and approved by New York State Bred Registry. Never won more than 13,000, other than maiden claiming a starter, all which have never won 2 races. So it's a lot of things here. So it should be a field of 20. We have a field of actually 12. 12 horses here, 6 furlongs on the turf, which I must. This is the wide in the turf, yes. So I'm proud to say we have the world record of 105-3. Thank you. My disco partner. They won't run this today. I'm sorry. It's this is the race that I want to go all, but due to not enough in the cookie jar, but
Funds are
pennies
low.
and coins, funds available.
Funds are low.
Funds are low. I couldn't go all, so I did find a few horses I found interesting. My top choice here is number 2, Hollywood Cat, for you guys in California.
There you go.
He has 2 wins at Belmont, so in this class, I mean that's like astonishing. I mean you can only win 1, and you can't one other than the maiden race. So he won a claiming race, but I rather Tears keeps the mount. Also for Jason Service, he's 32%, like I said before. He's got a good inside post. I think he's gonna probably race around mid pack. Outside the 1 horse, if mid pack would be good for him, and he could make a run 6 furlongs. He's coming off a slight layoff from Saratoga. He did get last race is just an awful tougher, like we said, forgiveness. Doing that race out. He was in the race actually for half a mile and just packed it in. But he should run pretty well here. I think he's 2 for 13, and he fits his condition. He's 9-2. I do like also number 9. Some Something Joyful. This horse, she had a big 5 length win to break her maiden at Belmont on a good turf. Uh, Castellano's not here, so you're gonna have Dylan Davis fill in. He's not a bad jockey. He's been doing very well in the local meet. Now he's with winners. Jeremiah Egerhart, 22% for the year. Uh, he has, I don't know. First race, she showed speed. Second race, they laid him off. That might have worked because they laid him off the pace. 2 lengths off, and he won by 5. So that might have been a trick. He's out enjoy breeders. There you go, Ken and Ramsey. So thank you, Ramsey, for breeding this horse. Something Joyful, number 9. A horse that interests me here is number 10 spot. I was gonna go too deep here, but I said let me just go 3 deep because I found a horse here. He doesn't win much, but you know he's my annoying jockey, Joe Bauer. I hate for him to beat me, so I'm gonna just include him. Spot treatment. He's 1 for 14, but he's got. I mean, 3 races in Belmont. He got 2/3. He's 5 in the money. He's a closer. Sometimes they just don't get there. He's been wide a lot of times. We see 5 wide, 5 wide, 5 wide. Um, could be the jockeys, Joe Rocco, Cancel, McCarthy. They're decent, but they're not the top notch. Joe Barrow maybe get him a good trip here. You never know. So he's in the same company. He had a good race in Saratoga. He ran 6, but he's just bumped steadily and had a bad trip then for Louis Sires. So I'm thinking Barrow might get him a better trip at 6-1. You never know. These horses, they've hardly win, so this might be his day. Spot treatment. So my race, I'll go 2, 9, 10, and I'll be done with my pick 4, and hopefully I'm still alive and looking at the wheel pace. Who's next, Joe? Or Rich?
It doesn't matter. I'll take it.
Okay. Joe English and Keeneland.
Yeah, I got one more, and if you've handicapped it, it's a doozy. I'm telling you. It's race 10. It's the 1 mile on the grass Shadwell Turf Mile. It's
the Shadwell.
1 for $1 million, 3-year-olds and up, and there are 14 horses in the body of the race. There are 2 also eligibles. And I can tell you from handicapping this race, it didn't give me a headache because the horses are really talented. But God damn it, if 11 or 12 of these horses won, any of 1 or of 11 or 12 had won, it would not surprise me. This race is, oh my God, difficult. The winner deserves the win in your in spot in the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile. Just about every heavy hitter, at a mile on the grass, is in this spot. And
wow,
like I said, it really is just a head scratcher. It's a corker, to be honest with you. And like I said, if there are probably 11 or 12 of them that would not surprise me if any of them had won, and they all have the ability to do it. I will try to keep this brief, but I went kind of Keno. Even though I went 5 deep, I feel nowhere confident that I couldn't have left out the winner. The horse I went with on top is the 6 Synchrony, who's not necessarily a Grade 1 winner. He finished in his only Grade 1 try. He finished 3rd in the Turf Classic behind Yoshida and Beach Patrol at Churchill on Derby weekend. And Yoshida and Beach Patrol are pretty darn good horses. Basically, Synchrony's been beating up on Grade 3 competition at Monmouth. But the reason the reason I like most of the horses I like in this race is because I think the pace is going to be honest. Because obviously Heart to Heart is in here and Voodoo Song is in here. I'm not sure Heart to Heart is the same horse he was maybe even earlier this year. He hasn't quite been in the lead. Maybe it's because Voodoo Song's been in the race the last 2 races he's run in. I'm not sure. Actually, I don't think Voodoo Song wasn't in the Shoemaker, but Heart to Heart wasn't even on the lead in that race either. And I kind of wonder if he's just not. I wonder if Voodoo Song is going to be on the lead and Heart to Heart's going to try and raid again. I just don't think Heart to Heart's the same horse if he's not on the lead. I think he's got to go. And the problem is, I think the fact that he's got to go because Voodoo Song is in the race, I don't think either one of them is going to get an easy lead. And Voodoo Song obviously showed some weakness last time out, having a lead at 24, in the Baruch at 24, 24 seconds. You would figure a horse like that on a 3.5 length lead after a 24 first quarter would be home, and he finished last at 3 to 5 to one of the horses in this race. I just think there's going to be I think the pace will be honest. I think it'll be fair, and I think if you're good enough, you're going to win. I don't think it makes any difference where you're coming from, but I think Synchrony's going to get a nice setup. The only thing about this race, and because it's a 14-horse field, if you're betting the closer, you might as well bet all the closers because somebody's going to get a wide trip, but somebody's going to sneak through. And if you get the horse that sneaks through and saves ground and gets the luck of the draw, you might get this horse home. Synchrony's 8-1 on the morning line, and I mentioned Corey Lanery before. This horse is going for 3 in a row again, beaten up on grade 3 competition at Monmouth. At short prices. So, the horse is obviously in good form, and I think he's ready to take on grade 1 company. My second choice is a horse who ran second in the Arlington Million, and that's the 11, Almanar for you guessed it, Chad Brown. Javier Castellano gets the mount because Joel Rosario is in New York, I believe, or is he in Southern California? I'm sure one of my colleagues will let me know. Okay, thank you. He ran second behind Robert Bruce, who disappointed last time out. Robert Bruce, when Robert Bruce won the Arlington Million, I think it's going to be an honest pace. I think he's good enough to win. Coming off that grade 1, he's in really, really good form off the layoff. The first 2 starts were bang up efforts. Despite getting beat, and he got bet that day. He was down to 7-2 in the Arlington Million. He was 5-1 on the morning line, if I remember right, and I think he got bet late. If you're betting the closers, you got to bet them all. It almost seems like you got to bet them all because somebody's going to get a wide trip in a 14-horse field. Third choice I went with was the 9, a horse we know all too well, and that's Analyze It, who's going to be a little closer to the pace. He's going to be the most likely beneficiary to sit behind Voodoo Song and Heart to Heart. He's going to probably get first run. Again, Johnny V does a lot of his best work on the turf, as I mentioned earlier in the show. Analyze It's facing older horses for the first time. He's going to get a little bit of a weight break because of that. And again, he's 1-for-1 at Keeneland, winning the Transylvania last year. He's run second 3 times by a grand total of about half a length. So you can't really ignore what he's done. The only question, I guess, I kind of wonder, because he ran so well at a mile and 1/16, and when they stretched him out, he ended up having the lead in the stretch each time, but got nailed. And I kind of wonder if maybe the mile is exactly what he wants to do. And if it is what he wants to do, again, he's going to get first run, and if he can get first run and spurred clear, the closers really may not have a chance. But I'm going to, so I'm going to use him on the ticket, but I'm not going to use him as my top pick. Again, I'll mention 2 more horses. I'll try to be brief. I went with the 1 also. Next shares at 15-1. Another closer. Drew the rail. Tyler Gaffleone gets aboard. Again, his style generally leads to a wide trip. But again, I'm looking for an honest pace, and I'm hoping that there is a closer, at least one, who comes running late and gets the money. Richie Baltus doesn't ship around a lot, but he's shipping here. And like I said, this is a win-you're-in race for the Breeders' Cup Mile. And if this horse can get home, obviously he can stay in Kentucky for the next month. And then I did have to throw Heart to Heart in as my other horse on the ticket, because I've been wrong before. Obviously, as a gambler, you get to be wrong a lot more than you get to be right, and you can still make money. Mm-hmm. But if he is, for whatever reason, the horse at Keeneland that he's not anywhere else, because obviously he's 5 of 6 in the money at Keeneland. Like I said, I just am not sure he's the same horse he was even earlier this year, and maybe he's lost a step. But given that he's won $2 million in 15 of 37 wins, 14 of 30, winning on the grass, I just really don't think, as the favorite, he should be. I don't think we should expect the old heart to heart, but he's still a class horse, and I still think of the two speed horses, I think you got to use him more than you have to use Voodoo Song. So I went 5 deep in order of preference. It was 6, 11, 9, 1, 5, and again, you could tell me 5 or 6 other horses would have won this race, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, real scratcher, real head turner, real corker, and if it gave you a headache, I can understand why. Rich?
Yeah, it goes to show me what I get for not looking at the forms ahead of time and like that. We're going to go right there from the Shadwell Turf Mile, which is a jam-packed race with a lot of superstars, to 6.5 furlongs, a maiden special weight affair here on the downhill turf at Santa Anita. This is for maidens, filly 2-year-olds.
There you go, Rich.
Yeah,
your specialty, maidens, beautiful.
My girl, so to speak, running here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was handicapping this one as I was sitting down later at night like that. My check mark, where did I lose it? Is over here on Noble Contessa. It's not an angle I love on the hill, but I just did not see a whole lot in this race. I did not single on this race horse, so I've got a couple of choices here for you. But Mike McCarthy, it's Assail Espinoza, and the horse has had 2 tries going a mile and is going to show some speed, a little bit of speed there. Now they're going to switch him over to the turf, and so that's my top choice here in the finale. Comes out of the juvenile filly turf, which was a restricted stake or a little stakes race there at Del Mar. So technically is dropping, although really I think this is kind of an equal move. Again, first time on the hill, not something that I'm real strong with, but if you look in this race, there's nobody who's really ran down the hill and has like a lot of experience going down the hill. These are maidens on their 2-year-olds. I did like the number 1 horse, which is for Mark Glatt, and that's Gary Stevens riding. Again, another 1-mile horse turning back. And there's also Colonial Creed, which is the favorite. And if you need to, and I did, go ahead and include the favorite. I'm never big on those inside post positions there on the hill. So again, leaning towards that 11 horse on the outside. But I do use all 3 of them. So I went 11, 1, 2 here in the finale. And let me go ahead and I'll come on back and we can summarize all 3 of these for you on the night of Pick4 Wars. Hang on 1 second, guys.
Oh, look at that. It's amazing.
All right. And so there you heard me, and I just finished up with 11, 1, and 2. And just before me was Joe, and Joe's got a 5-pack in there for you. And Joe has got, if I'm not mistaken, it is 6, 11, 9, 1, 5. And starting that leg off there, and the opener was Ray, and Ray had the 2, the 9, and the 10. Let me just add up mine here real quick for you. 3, 3, and 3.
I needed a dozen. Man.
Yeah. I will share with everybody here what we have so far, what this looks like for us on the end.
Rich, next time if you like, you can do Keeneland. How's that? if you want all the stakes, that's fine. You can do Keeneland.
Well, Santana had this
you
thing
want
back,
that.
right?
You
That's
want
right.
that 14. You want that 14 horse Shadwell Turf Mile. You can have it. It's
For all
okay.
for all the complaining that I did, Joe's absolutely right. Keeneland intimidates the heck out of me. It's the reason that we send Mr. English over there to take on Keeneland, and Ray and I stick to some of our home tracks. But there you see, I think you guys can see him up there. That's there's the Pick4 ticket. And I believe we started off with Ray. So I'm going to give you Ray's ticket on top there. Ray's got in his opening leg, he's 6-2-5. And then you went 3-5-8. Then you went 9-4-5. And then you finish up with 2-9-10. 4x3 for $40.50 if you like Ray's ticket. And that was at Belmont Park in Elmont, New York once again. Joe is in the black. And I'm sorry, and Ray is in the red text. Yeah, Ray is in the red text. Joe is in the black text. And Joe is playing Keeneland down there in Lexington, Kentucky. And Joe's opening leg is the 3-9. And then he goes 2-3-4. And then in leg 3, he is 6-1-8. And he finishes up with 6-11-9-1-5. And last, certainly not least, and the last ticket down there in the blues, Dodger Blue. You've got Rich, and I am playing Santa Anita with my one stakes race in there. I start the leg off with the 2-4-10, and then I went 2-8. 11-8-6 is leg number 3, where I'm largely leaning towards going with the all button. And then I finished up with 11-1-2. And it turns out mine would be a $27 ticket if you use that 3, just the 3x3x3. If you go with the all button, it'll be considerably more.
$112. I got it.
There we go.
112.50.
112.50. But I think Belmont did. Belmont, I don't know if you remember, Belmont used to have like 6 or 7 stake races in one day.
Yeah.
But they split it into 2 weekends.
Yeah, but they have 3 tomorrow, if I on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, because I did.
Oh,
see,
Sunday also, yeah.
Yeah, I did see on Twitter. I guess they're doing some kind of 4-race Pick4 with the Arc in at Longchamp in France.
Oh,
on
wow.
Sunday.
That's on
okay.
Sunday.
And the pre de l'Opera, and because I think they're running. What are they running tomorrow? I forgot. The Flower Bowl, maybe? I mean, Sunday. Flower Bowl, and the
Fazette and the Flower Bowl and the Futurity.
There you go. They're, like I said, they're doing a 4-race sequence with two races in.
Okay, so probably the Fazette and the Flower Bowl.
Yeah, so they split up the one day into 2 days. Great racing.
Usually all these races used to be a Jockey World Cup 2 altogether, so yeah. Used to be one day.
Great racing all around the world this weekend. If you're if you're a racing fan, you're not interested. You're not a racing fan.
All right. That's fun. I always enjoy Pick4 Wars. And for those of you watching, if you enjoyed the show, we'll be back next week, because that's what the 3 broke guys do. And once again, next week we'll all be back on the same team, putting our Pick4 ticket back together again. I'm not sure where we're going to be. I haven't actually looked at the card. I'm not sure if any other guys had to let us know.
Maybe Keeneland usually runs stakes races, but I don't.
And I have a feeling that Joe might be right. I think this might be Keeneland's weekend for us in the fall. So, all right, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for tonight. It's always a pleasure to handicap either with the 2 of you or against the 2 of you, depending on what we're doing.
Yeah. Always a pleasure. Yeah, it's very fun.
It was worth it and well needed today.
Yeah.
For Joe English and Ray Torado, I'm Rich Sharp. Thank you for watching 3 Broke Guys Handicapping. Good luck and good night.
Buenas noches.
Have a good long weekend.